This cereal intercrop project was developed by Charlotte Ward from Saskatchewan Agriculture out of Yorkton. The objective of the study is to demonstrate how a spring cereal intercrop with winter cereal creates an opportunity to still have a decent quantity of silage or green feed, with the added bonus of providing some fall grazing, because the winter cereal component just keeps growing. The winter cereal also keeps the ground covered into fall, which is good for the soil. Fall grazing winter cereals can also take some pressure off the perennial forage stands, allowing them to rebuild their energy reserves prior to the winter.
This part of this trial is monoculture plots of Haymaker oats, Maverick barley, and SO-1 oats. Haymaker oats is a forage variety with very large leaves. Maverick barley is a forage variety with attributes of CDC cowboy, but it has smooth awns because Maverick is one smooth cowboy. It also has lots of logic. CDC SO-1 is a new forage and feed variety which is gaining popularity. It is a variety with high oil growth and a low lignin hull, making it highly digestible, and this reduces the need to process grain before feeding it to cattle. When harvested as green feed, fewer whole seeds will pass through the animal, even if oats are harvested a little more on the mature side.
Each one of these monocrops has been seeded as an intercrop with winter triticale and Italian ryegrass. Each crop was seeded at a 3/4 rate when intercropping. The Italian ryegrass is a finer grass, so it's easy to see we got a good catch. Here, come closer, I'll show you what I mean. You can see the finer Italian ryegrass here at the bottom of these oats. I understand this is not always the case, and having good soil moisture at seeding probably helped. The Italian ryegrass will not overwinter here in Saskatchewan. In contrast, the winter triticale can overwinter, providing another opportunity for grazing the following spring. Well, let's go check out the results from this trial. There were no interactions between the spring cereal used and the cropping system, whether it was a monocrop or one of the companion crops. This allows us to focus on the main effects of monocropping and companion cropping with winter triticale and Italian ryegrass. In other words, each one of these values is averaged over the spring cereals used. From this figure, you can see intercropping with either winter triticale or Italian ryegrass did not increase green feed yield over the monocrop. In fact, intercropping with winter triticale significantly reduced green feed yield. Winter triticale was obviously more competitive with the spring cereal than the Italian ryegrass. While the companion crop did not provide any yield advantage, it did increase total digestible nutrients by a couple percent and decrease acid detergent fiber by a couple percent. In addition, the crude protein was also increased by 2% when winter triticale was used. In other words, green feed quality was improved a little bit by including a companion crop, and this was likely due to the leafy nature of the winter cereal. Grazing yield, indicated by the orange bars, was significantly higher for winter triticale compared to the Italian ryegrass. Here is how the fall regrowth looked on September 20, a couple days before the grazing yield was taken. You can see there is more regrowth of the winter triticale on the left than the Italian ryegrass on the right. However, the superior grazing yield of the winter triticale was not enough to compensate for the yield loss in green feed. Companion cropping with Italian ryegrass provided the highest total forage yield. This occurred because the Italian ryegrass was less competitive with the spring cereal and still provided a decent grazing yield. However, it should be noted that precipitation during August was 50% above average. If conditions had been dry, the Italian ryegrass performance in fall would have been much poorer compared to the winter triticale. Let's look at the main effects of spring cereal. Each of these values has been averaged over cropping system, i.e. monocrop and companion crops. Haymaker oats provided the highest green feed yield, followed by SO-1 oats, and then followed by Maverick barley. Unfortunately, the spring cereals were not all established at the same emergence rate.
For the monocrop, haymaker oats had the highest emergence rate of 337 plants per meter squared, followed by maverick barley at 273 plants per meter squared, and then SO1 oats at 222 plants per meter squared. The higher emergence rate for the haymaker oats may have given it a yield advantage over the SO1 oats. Also, as you saw in the introduction, the barley lodged, which would have reduced the green feed yield. In order to get an accurate yield, we had to physically part the rows before harvest to ensure we weren't dragging in extra yield from the guard rows. If we look at grazing yield of the companion crop, you can see it's significantly lower when the competing spring cereal was haymaker oats. Again, this may have been the result of the higher emergence rate for haymaker oats. Whether haymaker oats was truly more competitive than SO1 oats is uncertain. Overall, a companion crop with maverick barley provided the lowest total forage yield. Again, maverick barley lodged in this study, whereas the oats did not. The background level of soil nitrogen was quite high in this study due to back-to-back drought during the previous 2 years. I might add the maverick barley was harvested 9 days earlier for green feed than the oats because of its earlier maturity, so it wasn't because we harvested the barley late that it lodged. Everything was harvested at soft dough. Maverick is only rated as having fair resistance to lodging. Conclusions. The value of intercropping depends on the seasonal forage requirements of the producer. Companion crops provided the most forage production and somewhat improved forage quality of the green feed. Using winter triticale resulted in reduced green feed yield but provided the greatest grazing yield. Using Italian ryegrass provided decent grazing yield without reducing the green feed yield, so it provided the best of all worlds here. However, I don't know that we can always count on this, because the fall regrowth was aided by the moist conditions in fall. Thanks to the Saskatchewan Cattlemen's Association and Adopt for funding this project.